Okay, I call the meeting to order. At this time, we please stand for the invocation by Mrs. Henderson and Pledge of Allegiance and Texas Pledge.
Lord, we come before you and we thank you for this day. We thank you for our city and we thank you for our leaders. We ask you to give us wisdom in all of our decisions, and as your word instructs us, that we do justice, love kindness, and that we walk humbly with you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. Citizens' comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Comments about any of the council agenda items are appreciated by the council and may be taken into consideration at this time or during the agenda item. Council is prohibited from acting on or discussing items brought before them at this time. Is there any? No? Okay. This time I entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Got your vote. It's unanimous. Okay. Go to item number 7 on the agenda. The reason we can't go into anything in the public hearings right now because they're published for 6:30, so we cannot start a public hearing before 6:30. So we'll go on to the regular business agenda. Item number 7, consider and act on the award of a contract to D&D Commercial Landscape Management for mowing and related maintenance to all Corinth right-of-ways, parks, and and authorize the city manager to sign the required documents. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, our Director of Public Works, Glenn Barker, will cover this item and answer any questions that you may have.
Mayor, Council, this is the contract for mowing of the right-of-ways, parks, and the facilities. It's a 5-year contract. The last time we went to bid was 2020, and this bid was $290,000, and last bid was about $190,000, so it's about $100,000 over. Mr. Campbell wanted me to kind of explain what we're going to do for the remainder of this year budget. We're not asking for a budget amendment since it's already 6 months in. Towards the end of the year, we'll actually start slowing down our mowings to 10-day cycles versus 7-day cycles if the budget needs to be adjusted. So we'll do operational changes versus the budget amendment.
Are there any questions from council?
Where is this D&D out of?
That's a pop quiz. They're local, but they're within DFW somewhere because he lives right down the road.
Okay, so I just I was thinking about this earlier. Whenever we do these bids, do we try to get Corinth people, businesses, do we give them priority or first or anything like that? Can we or do we? I just think it's best if we can keep everything as local as possible.
What we could do is offer the bid, but we can't. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're subject to state bidding laws on that. Now, there are some cities that I'm aware of, and we need to check with legal on this and refresh ourselves what you can and can't do that might give a little priority to a local within a certain percentage. But obviously the whole logic behind the bid process is it's public dollars and you're just trying to get the best bang. I know you know that. But we never have a problem getting bids in general. We're not, some cities really struggle with that. I don't think we do. But as long as we're meeting state. You want to comment on that? I'm sorry.
This is a competitive bid, so it's just low dollar. In state law, we can only give priority to like in-state bidders over out-of-state bidders if there's reciprocity. There's some bid laws that basically you have to comply with if you're going to try to give an in-state bidder any type of priority. But this type of bid is just a competitive low bid, so it's not really gonna matter where they are. I mean, we could certainly, as bids come and we know we have local folks, make sure that they get a chance to bid on it, because it probably would be cheaper if they don't have travel and things like that. But there's nothing to allow us on a straight competitive bid to give an option or opportunity for somebody just because they're local.
Glenn, I have a question. So overall, we've been pretty happy with the service that they've provided in the last 4 years?
Extremely. The owner comes out and handles all problems personally, so it's nice to have him.
So I know that everything's gone up. Is that kind of just inflation is why the price has increased like it has?
Yes, 5 years, it's,
A long contract.
yeah.
I mean, 5
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
Has any additional areas been added on this contract?
Some Agora has been added, and then some areas have been subtracted.
But that will influence that additional cost?
Yes, sir.
But they'll do a gore more than once every 10 days.
Oh, yes. Right now, it's on a once a week cycle. Towards the end of the year, when it's a slower part of the
Growing
year.
season?
Yes,
Okay.
then that's when we'll start.
So when Agora is up, in the growing season, they'll do it once a week.
Yes,
And then in the winter months, or when the dormant months, then they'll come every 10 days.
right. So actually, we'd actually worry about August for us when it's too hot for the grass to grow. That's when.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
Any other question? If not, I entertain a motion on that item.
Mayor, I move to approve the contract with D&D Commercial Landscape Management for mowing and related maintenance to all Corinth right-of-ways, parks, and facilities, and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Item number 8, consider an act on an ordinance accepting a permanent sanitary sewer easement of .1136 acres situated in the Brooks Beall Survey, abstract number 58, being a portion of the certain tract 24 of land conveyed to Acme Brick Company from Acme Brick Company, and authorize the city manager to sign the necessary documents. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tristan Cisco, our project manager, will cover this item tonight, answer whatever questions you have.
This item is just for accepting a sanitary sewer easement. The area is depicted here in red, and it'll be for the Quarry Townhome development.
Is that it?
That's it.
Been exciting about
Is there
a
any
sewage
questions?
easement.
They want sewer, so we need to do this easement.
Okay. Does council have any questions? Okay. Then I'd entertain a motion on that item.
Mayor, I would move to approve an ordinance accepting a permanent sanitary sewer easement of .1136 acres situated in the Brooks Bell Survey, abstract 58, same being a portion of that certain tract. 24 of land conveyed to Acme Brick Company from Acme Brick Company, and authorize the city manager to sign the necessary documents.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Got your vote. It's unanimous. Item number 9, consider an act on the development agreement template to be used with all incoming developments as required by the Unified Development Code to establish regulatory standards, and authorize the city manager to approve future agreements utilizing this template. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tristan, you want to cover this one as well while you're up here? Thank you.
Yep, that's me. So the reason we developed the template is for these following objectives. We want to satisfy the city's current UDC requirements. We also need to establish regulatory standards on all incoming developments. It will require developers to provide financial assurances for all public improvements and facilities, and also ensures that infrastructure is installed in accordance with our UDC, other ordinances, design criteria, and our engineering services manual. And these are what this template specifically provides for general requirements for developers, such as the surveyors, construction contracts, insurances, and other documents that they need to provide to us before construction starts. It'll also provide for financial insurances, guarantees performance, maintenance, and payment instruments or bondings before construction starts. And then any public infrastructure, public improvements to streets, storm, water, and wastewater, it will include anything that we need to agree with the developer in regards to impact fees or other incentives for work provided. And then for final acceptance, it will outline everything that they need to provide to us before final acceptance, including test reports, GIS record drawings, the maintenance bond, and make sure everything is paid before we accept the project.
Okay, is there any questions from council? No? Okay, then I would entertain a motion on that item.
Mayor, I would move to approve the development agreement template and authorize the city manager to approve future agreements utilizing this template.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Council comments and future agenda items. The purpose of this section is to allow each council member the opportunity to provide general updates and or comments to fellow council members, the public, and or staff on any issues or future events. Also, in accordance with Section 30.085 of the Code of Ordinances, at this time, any council member may direct that an item be added as a business item to any future agenda. Mr. Burke.
Although I know we have some time to kill, I don't have anything.
I was counting on you. Ms. Henderson.
Thank you and Ilma, if she's here, for coming out to the ribbon cutting for Prime City Spa today, a new business in the area. And also for future agenda, when I asked about the local bids, if we could maybe put something where when we have bids that we encourage the local bidders or send something to all the businesses here that can bid on that, I think that would be a good way to start going forward to keep as much local as we can. And I know we still have to meet the requirements, but yes, if we can keep it local.
Ms. Pickens.
I have nothing, Mayor, thanks.
Mr. Campbell.
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Just wanted to remind everybody that this Saturday there is the extravaganza over. That starts at 2 p.m. and goes until 6 p.m., correct? So if your grandkids or your children or neighbors, whoever else wants to come and have a fun time, it's free. So with that, 30,000 eggs. Okay. With that, we'll just take a little break here for about 5 minutes, and then we'll readjourn or reconvene. So take a recess. 5 minutes.
It's not a vote to tell people.
Thanks. More compliment. They look very great. No. No, they're fake. Extra coats on. How much? Okay. It's Thursday. Oh my God. We're terrible. Don't you know? Don't you know, eh? Yes, and I need to get on there. I'll get school later. Oh, I got a granola bar making thing.
Okay, call the meeting to order. This time, go to item number 3. Conduct a public hearing, consider testimony and act on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance and zoning map of the city of Corinth, each being a part of the Unified Development Code for the purpose of rezoning an approximately 1.836 acre tract of land located outside of the boundaries, but immediately adjacent to PD 68 and more commonly identified as 2600 Lake Sharon Drive, Corinth, Denton County, Texas, from SF4 single-family residential to the 2600 Lake Sharon Drive Planned Development District number 70 to permit either single-family residential use consistent with the standards of PD 68 or a licensed child care center use case number ZAPD 24-002-PD-70. Mr. Campbell.
Michelle. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, Michelle Mikesell will cover this item with our Planning and Zoning Department and answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is PD 70 in your packet. It's 2600 Lake Sharon Drive, and it's related to a PD that you recently approved called Oak Ridge Park, and more commonly referred to locally as the Baum property, the gas well property, just located on the south side of Lake Sharon Drive. Ashford Park is our new subdivision just to the north, and Taylor Ridge is just to the east. The subject property is just under 2 acres. It's 1.83 acres. It's in the northeast corner of what was referred to on the, this mouse does not like me this evening. Okay, there we go. What was referred to on the Oak Ridge Park PD as an out parcel. While it wasn't zoned with that PD, it was always identified on there as an out parcel to that project. This evening, it's, well, again, just to orient everyone, it's on the south side of Lake Sharon, west of Trinity Terrace, on the northwest corner of the tract. And, okay, there we go. The existing conditions, it's a part of a larger tract, and you can see the red dashed line on the lower right. While it has an awkward configuration of this line that is in conformance with the way the PD was zoned for Oak Ridge Park PD 68, but the actual parcel is a bit larger, and it's about 2.5 acres currently. It has an existing single-family dwelling and an accessory structure, and there's an existing curb cut on Lake Sharon Drive. Several trees on the site. Under this option, there are, as was mentioned, there are 2 options considered for this property, which is a little bit unique for this PD. There is a new use added to the base SF4 district as it is currently zoned. With the new PD, it would allow for it would allow for a licensed child care center, the Goddard School, and the applicant is here, and you can ask questions at the end of the presentation. There are specific standards unique to this that we added in to capture this non-residential use within the base zoning district. Accessory building limit would be capped at 15 feet or a 400 square foot area. We have residential adjacency standards that were identified for enhanced screening, sign regulations. We added standards to only allow for non-internally illuminated signage and cap the signage at a max of 5 feet. Similarly, bollards would be the only sort of lighting that would be permitted on the site to maintain the residential character of the site and or the residential character of the surroundings, and the representative elevations were provided by the applicant, and you'll see those in a few moments. So this is very similar to what we know of the current Goddard School, which is located here just on the north side of Corinth Parkway, just down from City Hall. Oops. I feel like but there was another slide here. In terms of option A, the residential, there were additional dimensions that we added, capping the front yard at a minimum of 30 feet, side yards establishing limit 30 feet, rear yard of 15, and a cap of 2.5 stories, 35 feet. In terms of the second option that would be considered, it would be really an expansion or an extension on the small 1.8 acres of the existing development pattern that you find in the Oak Ridge Park subdivision. And if that were to expand, it would be similar in character and include 11 lots is what they're proposing, which would be 6 cottage lots, 2 patio lots, and then 3 of their traditional single-family lots. There's a slight street configuration change that they are proposing, and we would work with them at the time of civil plans if this would be the option chosen. We also have a reference in here that would require all of the standards that were approved in the PD 68 just to the south to apply to the 1.8, except that the tree preservation and the trail dedication or fee in lieu of requirements would not be, they would be required as we currently have in our base district, so they wouldn't have any unique departures. The other development considerations in terms of option 1 and B, we want them to address at the time of site plan or preliminary plat, depending on the options, access management along Lake Sharon in terms of the access points. We've asked that a new sidewalk be installed. The current 4-foot would be completely removed, and a new sidewalk would be installed within the landscape buffer if necessary in either option. And then in terms of the future land use, both options really are in keeping with the future land use. Both options considered the neo-traditional neighborhood or new urbanist design, which includes walkability towards schools and the close more intimate neighborhood design. And this is just additional information, traditional neighborhood design, connections to schools. And in terms of letters of support or opposition, I know in the staff report it listed one thing. I wanted to provide that we actually have 3 letters of opposition, one with inside the 200 buffer and 2 letters from property owners outside of the buffer. And I also want to share that even though the property is 1.8 acres at the northeast corner, we did notice all of the properties around the original PD. We went above and beyond so that everyone would be alerted because there wouldn't be many people to notice if we did otherwise. The applicant here is this evening does not have a presentation but would use our slides to answer any questions. And staff is recommending approval. I should say also that Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval as well. And I'd like to just share the letters because they were not included in your packet.
Are there any questions for council?
How do we know what we got, A or B?
We would ask that you approve both options, and then based on the market or the property owner or the developer could choose, because both options would fit. I know it's a little bit different than the normal, but both options could be.
I want to go back also to the lighting, because we have a daycare in our neighborhood, and the lighting has been a tremendous source of aggravation for a lot of our residents, and because it just shines into their bedrooms.
Yes.
And I mean, they're on all night. So you said that the lighting is not going to be
Greater than 48 inches in height. So it would be a bollard that would light the pathway, and we also would we have a standard to limit the signage in terms of hours of operation with that sensitivity in mind. Mm-hmm.
So Michelle, option B essentially is what we approved on the initial, when we approved PD 68, is option B, essentially.
Essentially, it's just adding this little corner with an actual street layout and the 11 lots.
What was there before? Nothing?
No, it was just an out parcel. It was just identified as SF4. 4.
So there was no, I can't remember.
Yes.
When we approved this PD 68,
Yes.
this parcel of land was not developed. It didn't show developed.
It was an out parcel on our plan. So when I presented it to y'all.
Did you not own it at that time?
I did not own it, and I still don't own it. So.
Okay.
So here's kind of what happened. When I presented it to y'all.
Okay.
And P&Z, all intentions were always to be a Goddard school. They've been under contract for a while, working on their plans for a while, but they weren't ready to go when we came forward. So they're ready to go. They're under contract.
With this parcel?
With this parcel. So they plan to move forward. The Goddard School plans to move forward. The only thing that we were trying to do is give the landowner some security and support for if something happened with the Goddard School. We are here, and we would like to extend our project through there and bring the road through. So if you kind of, here, I'll just show you through the two. Okay, you see that corner right there?
Yep.
That's what mine looks like currently. So
Okay.
our school's pulled out. So if we go to the new plan, and some stub the road through and continue to the north. Just fill out that side.
So that road's gonna be there, Goddard School or you?
Goddard School for us. So
That
that's why
road
it's
is,
option.
that curb cut's gonna happen, right there.
Yeah, well, close. Very close. See, the curb cut's right.
Oh, got it.
It'll move over.
It'll be a little bit
It'll move
further
over
east.
100 foot to the east.
Okay.
So I have a question too. Goddard School does a beautiful product.
They do.
Really pretty.
And we want
Very
them to be
nice.
part of the community.
So let's just say they decided not to do it. Would you go to another daycare? Because they don't all do such pretty products.
No, if they don't, it would be us. We have a backup contract. Like, the plan is always, our original plan was to take the whole property and do this plan up here, but they've been working with the Goddard School, and we've known the Goddard School for a long time. We love having them across from Walton, so it's a perfect fit. So we're just here asking for option A, option B, so if something did happen, we'll come to y'all, but we wouldn't come to y'all without a plat to show you what we're doing and working with staff to finalize the plat.
Please state your name and your
Oh,
address for the
sorry.
records, too.
I'm John Arnold with Scoreboard Company, 8214 Westchester Street, Dallas, Texas, 75225. I'm sorry, I just hopped up here.
Thank you.
So if we were to approve it, we approve it with both options? Okay.
That's correct.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I'd entertain a motion on this side, or wait, got to go to public hearing. Public hearing at 6:45. Is there anybody in the audience who'd want to speak to this? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. I'd entertain a motion on this item.
I'll move to recommend approval of case number ZAPD 24-0002-2600 Lake Sharon Drive as presented.
You mean approve, not recommend approve, correct? Approve. Yes, council's approving. That might have been a leftover from a P&Z. So approve, yes, ma'am.
Second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Item number 4, conduct a public hearing to consider testimony and act on the ordinance for a rezoning request by the applicant Wolverine Interest LLC to amend the zoning ordinance and zoning map of the city of Corinth, each being a part of the Unified Development Code by rezoning approximately 4.6 acres generally located at the southeast corner of North Corinth Street and Walton Drive from PD 21, a planned development with a base zoning district of C2 commercial to a planned development with a base zoning district of MXR, mixed-use residential, for the development of a mixed-use development. Case number ZAPD 22-009, Corinth City Center mixed-use plan development. Mr. Campbell.
Mayor and Council, Michelle Meixel will cover this item as well. Answer any questions you have.
Thank you. This has been a long time coming. This is the City Center mixed-use PD proposed development for the Wolverine project, which is located just on the north side of Agora Way and our new Agora Park. This is a property that is currently owned by the city and is a public-private partnership with a developer to bring as a catalyst development just on the north side of our downtown, really to spark the development of the Agora district and our whole TOD concept that's identified in the comprehensive plan. The subject property is just under 5 acres. It's for plus or minus 4.6 acres, located on the south side of Walton Drive, east of North Corinth Street, and just above New Agora Way. Again, it's a public-private partnership with an economic development agreement, and it's, along with Agora, I mentioned, a catalyst for the downtown. One interesting thing, it's located just along the Katy Trail, and also very close to our other trailhead, which is our mountain biking trail, which leads to a large portion of our community park that also has mountain biking trails, which is a regional destination, which is a great anchor for trail-oriented development catalyst as well within the downtown. The proposal is for 300 dwelling units, a minimum of 650 square feet, some of which are proposed for live work, which would be for a limited time on the ground floor to provide for an opportunity if and when as retail begins to evolve. Their proposal is to provide a minimum of 3,000 square feet of retail with a minimum of 15,000 restaurant. The building will be 5 stories with ground level retail. The buildings are designed to frame the quadrant, frame the streets, and there's a minimum parking requirement of 1.4 parking spaces. There will be a 5-level parking garage, and 75 of those garage spaces will be reserved for public parking, which will support our downtown. One thing important to note that all on-street parking will, in the public right-of-way, will be designed for retail visitors and park users, not to meet the minimum requirement for the residential units. That will be in the garage. In terms of the proposal along the streetscape, they are proposing wide pedestrian sidewalks to create a public realm and support a lot of activity for the different events and pop-up retail concepts and so forth. The streets will have street trees, true street trees at the curb edge within planters. There'll be unique signage. There's a linear green that will be in a similar promenade around an existing stream corridor wetland. You can see here how it will be planted with vegetation and the preservation of the stream channel. They're also proposing as part of their private development, open lawns, outdoor kitchen, a number of private recreation amenities for their tenants. And this is just another larger version showing the site development, the concept plan. And then in terms of the elevations, we wanted to show, and what you see here is a key map showing you how this would be viewed from the different quadrants of the streets. This view is looking across to the site from Agora Way, from the park. And the exterior of the buildings, they did provide in your packet, exterior wall materials 70% would consist of masonry construction, excluding doors and windows, of course. And that also does include cementitious board, except that no more than 50% of the facade facing a public street would be fiber reinforced cement board. This would be the view looking across from Walton Drive onto the site. And this, you can see this image. It's not fully developed here, but this is where the stream would open up, and then would have that vegetated corridor with the pedestrian way, the promenade, leading to Agora. So there's a pass through. And this is looking across the street. If you're on the trail, for example, looking from across North Corinth Street. So this is the retail that you would see effectively from I-35 service, or from the trail to catch the passerby's eye. And this is looking from our little main street, which is also proposed for retail. And this is an elevation, just some typicals showing you what this street elevation might look like if you're walking along the different street segments. And one thing that I wanted to point out is on Walton Drive, we have 2 different options. We're currently, they're in the early stages. We do have an underground or above ground utility that we would like to go underground. And depending on what happens with the utility, we'll either have shade trees at the curb edge, or we'll have ornamentals in planters. We will have on-street parking all around to create that downtown feeling or character. Some things key things to just identify prohibitive uses would be vape and paraphernalia shops. The max density that's different from the MXR base district, which is what they're proposing, would be 75 dwelling units an acre, a slightly smaller square foot in terms of the minimum units, but that's typical for the market now. In terms of the park and recreation and trail, this is not applying. This is a part of the public-private partnership where the Agora Park is functioning in that capacity. Same with tree preservation, though they are preserving the stream bank with the vegetation there that they'll be replanting. I mentioned the 1.4 parking spaces, which will be in the garage. And then going to the facades, this is just a reiteration of the 50% in terms of the materials, but they do have a requirement in the MXR district, and it's more defined in the table that's in your packet that talks about the articulation and the requirements for glazing and so forth that is currently existing in the MXR base zoning district that they would be required to comply with. And then signs. This is a unique situation. We're allowing some flexibility to match and to create something exciting in our downtown. So it will be, the signs will be better defined at the time of the unified sign plan. So it will relate to the architecture, and the control will be with our director of planning and development to really negotiate what we'll be getting at that time. In terms of the comprehensive plan, it fits, of course, within our mixed-use TOD. We are actively seeking this type of development in the downtown to support and generate the activity that's imagined as a catalyst. And this is just an example of what the comprehensive plan identifies. The mixed-use TOD, loft apartments, 4 to 6 to 10 stories. Oh my goodness, Michelle. 4 to 6 stories in height, and the density being market-driven. In terms of letters of support or protest, we didn't receive any letters of support or letters of opposition. However, I do want to note that on February 26, one resident who was located outside of the 200-foot buffer did speak in opposition and provided a public input form indicating opposition. And one resident located outside of the 200-foot buffer spoke of traffic concerns, though did not indicate opposition or support either way on the form. And staff recommends approval as presented. And I do know that the architect is here this evening who can answer any questions that I think some of you might have.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So there's a possibility that the utilities won't be buried? That will have overhead power?
Right, and so that would be regardless of any development that went here. That's governed by the utility, and we are our Public Works Director and our Director of Planning and Development have been helping to get that going with.
What would be the reason why we couldn't?
Encore would, if there's something, a conflict underneath,
Okay.
Encore would say no.
Okay.
Encore would say.
But they haven't said no. So there's still
It's
a
still,
chance.
yes.
Okay. And on the signs, how will they be hung? Are they going to be flat, or are they going to have flange signs?
Well, what the unique thing about this is when it comes to the time for the unified sign plan, and we're looking at the real architectural design that we're getting at the time of site plan, we will, you can see here some blade signs that are projecting. We have awning signs. We have the little.
Who dictates that? Will Wolverine dictate that, or will the retailer dictate? I mean, will the person that is going to own the business, are they going to determine what sign they want, or is the developer Wolverine or whoever owns going to dictate what sign goes where?
I believe, Melissa, if you wouldn't mind elaborating on that, it'll be a negotiated item as part of the unified sign plan with
So the key there is that the developer would submit a unified sign plan. So regardless of the tenant, it would lay out, the tenant signs will be here. There will be a blade sign here. So even
Okay.
as tenants changed, you will have a similar kind of signage, for example, for tenant names across the front in a similar location and so on. But then, the text or the logos or
But that doesn't, then some could have flange or what are y'all calling blade signs?
Yes,
out.
I mean-
Just for, to make it aesthetically interesting.
Correct.
Instead of just.
And that was really the point. There are a lot of these signs, and you've probably seen some of these before in the MX code that you're discussing.
Yes.
So it's similar.
Yep.
Similar concept. And so different signs have different purposes. And for example, you might have a larger retailer or restaurant on the corner that might justify, does this work? Oh, there we go. Sort of. That might justify a blade sign like this, which is a projecting sign that's
Yeah.
creative. It's something we want to encourage.
Yeah.
And again, it depends on the architecture and location, and the unified sign plan will lay all of that out in a comprehensive way so that moving forward, when a new tenant comes in, okay, their sign goes here, and
Okay.
it's this kind of sign. You might have a building identifier, so the name of the development, that could be a blade sign on the corner similar to this second one from the top, or something like that. If they choose to use awnings, you could have signage on the front of the awnings similar to that. So there's some unknowns, and that's why you're not seeing that tonight.
And I guess, when you go to buy a new house in a subdivision, you can't put the same floor plan right next to each other. So you create that kind of, that aesthetically pleasing kind of to the eye, to where it's not just, Stepford wise. And so that's kind of what may not be in the building as far as interest, you can maybe create it with signage.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, we showed these images so that you could see the creativity that we would
Yeah.
encourage. And much of this is not allowed today in our standards sign code.
When you say encourage, they don't have to do that. I guess when you say when the developer comes with their sign thingy.
Well, they're going to be obviously motivated to have a nice.
Yeah, sure,
building.
right.
So we're confident that, they'll present something that makes sense for the development. It's a combination of what makes sense for the market. You want to be visible. You want to, if there's a restaurant or retailer there, you want to be able to see it, and where
Yeah,
it
sure.
is, and where's the entry, and all of those things. So the unified sign plan will be ultimately reviewed and adopted and approved, and then that kind of sets the stage going forward with what we will see in the development as a whole. That's really the key piece of that, is that unified sign plan.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
How many apartments are we looking at here? Or?
A minimum of 300. It's required in the 380 agreement that they provide 300. Based on their density max that they can get, they can go up to 340.
How many spaces is it? 1.4 spaces. How many is that going to be in the parking garage?
At the 300, and Miguel can check my math, but I believe that's 495, including the. Is that right? Including the 75 for the public.
So that's 420 spaces for 300 apartments.
Plus 75.
No, you said 495 minus the 75 would be 420.
420.
Yeah,
Okay, then yes, then that's correct.
for 300 apartments.
What's 300 times 1.4? Does that get you? 420. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Scott.
So, I mean, in the real world, most homes are going to have 2 cars.
Yes, and
I mean, so that's 600 cars, and we're only going to have 420 spaces. I mean, I know there's a study here, but how do we come up with those numbers, and where will these other people park? Because if we're going to have 75 spaces reserved,
right. I can say that our other developments have the similar ratio. Bridgeview, for example, is at 1.24. We have Realty, believe it's 1.5. Now they're more suburban in nature. This is and Melissa's coming. She might be coming up to clarify some things as well. But the market supports 1.4. It's a trail-oriented development. Their units also are at 650 square feet. So it depends on the different mix also that the different developers are providing. So if you have a heavier, like Corinth Groves, where they had a larger number of 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom versus the 1-bedroom that we have here, then obviously that might be more of a factor. Would you like to add, Melissa?
Just want to say that, apartments are different than homes. So you have a lot of apartments that have single people in them. So that's why you have them not two. I mean, there are going to be many apartments that only have one car. So you come up with the middle ground of 1.4, and that's actually pretty typical for apartments in general because everybody doesn't have, each unit isn't going to have 2 cars.
I just have a really quick question. I know that you said the 65, bing, bing, bing. The 65, is it 65 street parking? Is it, I think
75
I've seen that.
or
75 in the garage, and I think on street throughout is 65, is that right?
Correct, and that cannot be used for residential.
How are you going to control that? That's
Well,
my question.
we've asked that question, but I mean, it just may take some enforcement of cars parking overnight, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And we've conveyed that to the developer already, that's a concern we have. I ran into this in another place where you potentially would have the issue where folks have overnight guests and those kinds of, trying to park in the spaces that were intended for retail, overflow parking, event parking, those kinds of things, and we just have to negotiate with them on how we're going to do that, and you could run into situations where you have to enforce it.
Yeah.
Actually go out there and start dropping little love letters on their cars saying, hey, you can't stay here overnight, this is not residential parking, but I feel confident we'll be able to work that out with the developer. We've talked a little bit about that already.
And
Parking brings me, that worries me more than almost anything. Because personally, if I'm invited to something, if I know it's going to be hard to park, I just don't go. And I don't want that to happen to us. I don't want people to not come because they don't want to jack with parking.
So downtown parking is really, really important, and turnover is very important. So one of the things that we will want to look at as we start planning for this downtown, and you're going to see some of these recommendations in our downtown plan, and that is to limit the amount of time. So 2-hour parking, 4-hour parking, that sort of thing, to make sure that you have turnover, which is really important for on-street parking specifically. Of course, we'll continue to work, as downtown develops, we'll continue to work on parking strategies such as shared parking garages. We've already had a lot of conversations about potential future developments and what those might look like and how we could do a shared parking arrangement. That's something that also involves marketing, heavily marketing in all sorts of ways where you can visually easily see that you can park, say, free for 2 hours in this parking garage or any parking garage that has a signage that everybody recognizes.
Who enforces that 2-hour time limit or 4-hour time limit? Do we have the resources to enforce that? That's tough, right? So, and I get it. It's a little bit of a crapshoot. I get
If you
it.
have a car that's parked overnight, particularly regularly, that's probably fairly obvious.
Yeah.
So.
But if I'm coming down to shop and have lunch and then maybe after shopping cocktails, I'm gonna be there longer than 2 hours.
I think it is important to remember too that the parking that will be around this development and the parking that's going to be available in this development is not going to be the only parking. So as we continue to move forward on downtown redevelopment, as I mentioned, we'll have parking strategies that is going to be very important, and this can't be the end all. There will be our goal would be if when we talked about the MXC and the cross sections for Corinth Parkway and cross sections for North Corinth Street, they all have on-street parking on both sides. So expanding that on-street parking, you're right, it's very intuitively when you see that there's parking on the street, it makes you more likely to come. And so we want to expand the on-street parking, having going all the way up to Shady Shores. Even the development that we're in discussion with, Greenway Trails, we're in conversations with that development to add on-street parking there. So it's an ongoing conversation to make sure that we address that holistically.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions? Does the developer want to make a presentation?
They don't have a formal presentation, but they're welcome to flip through the elevation section if you'd like.
Okay. Please state your name and your address for the records, please.
Good evening. My name is Eric Earnshaw, principal at HEDK Architects, 4595 Excel Parkway, Addison, Texas, 75001. Very happy to be here tonight to talk about this new development, mixed use, that we've been working on, and I know you guys have been working on probably a lot longer than I have as well. The elevations are, let's see if I can move through this a little bit. As presented and so forth, this is the Walton Drive elevation, and through the portion of the building that bridges over the Greenbelt areas, that's a sensitive area. We wanted to make sure that we had a view corridor through there so we could see the green in the background and so forth, but also continue our building elevation along the street. We also set the building up this way with the parking garage behind it so that we didn't have a parking structure right on Walton. That was important to us as the architect, and to bring that to the development, because every bit of this site is the front door of the project. I mean, that's evident as far as what the site is and the importance on Walton and Corinth, and especially on Agora Way and all the way down to Main Street and so forth. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't having the back side of a project on any one of those streets, and to have our best foot forward on all sides of the elevation. So you'll see consistency, uniformity of design. As we were talking, as I heard her, Michelle talking a little bit earlier about the materials, and yes, it's heavy on masonry and such, and we're not using a lot of fiber cement siding. We've limited that as well, because as I said, everything's our front door, if you would. And then the retail portion, that would be, I'm trying to get back, and I'm sorry about flipping through like this. There we go, back to the Agora Way elevation and so forth like that. And as you can see, this elevation merges both of the buildings together, and then you can see the gap between them, which is the Greenbelt area, which will be more intensified with trees and landscape. More of the section showed. We're really trying to just highlight the building here, and then you can see the overall heights of this 5-story building with the articulation that is ongoing from side to side, from the apartments all the way down to the ground. And then we've got nice offsets within the retail as well. You can kind of see where we're suggesting some band signs or horizontal signs in the gray area. Those are really where we're indicating where a sign is not a material change. Those are kind of proud of the other portions of the retail that's recessed back to give some formal entries to the different types of retail spaces that may be there, and also some recesses along the way there to encourage some outdoor dining and seating and so forth like that, as we see different uses along through here. A little bit in conjunction with the comments about the sign as well. Those signs will give some individuality to the different retailers that we hope to see here in this development. So that's a lot about what's important to us as designers and so forth. And then the pool court yard that we have, and the open courtyard that we have, one on the left and one on the right, that kind of allows for, on this drawing, if you look at the end of the site plan, number one there is where we think there'll be a good opportunity for some outdoor kitchen and outdoor lawn area and so forth like that as an extension into the outdoors from the retail space there at an end cap. So talking with Wolverine, the developer, of course, we see a lot of opportunities for different types of retail here, restaurants, shops, things of that nature, to really make a wonderful walking community, and connectivity to the new park and so forth across our way is just going to be fabulous, we think. And then going on, I think that was all the elevations that are in this package. Yes, it is. Is there any questions about that, or?
Are there any questions, Council?
What?
Y'all know me? Of course I have questions. So the one with the rendering that you have with the street, with the waterway.
Oh, with the
Where
whole.
is that? Is that
with
going
this
through the middle of there?
Yes, it's right through here,
Okay.
and this is
I
that.
saw the rendering that you
gap right
had
there.
of. Okay. And so in the building itself, like this bottom where it's retail, is that flat or is there any articulation?
No, that's what I was saying earlier, is that.
Yeah, it's hard to tell with this.
Yeah, and if you see the locations of, I'm going to put my mouse right here on this window and right on that gray area right there.
Uh-huh.
That's intended for a sign band for a retail entry, and this right here would be, 3 to 5 foot in front of the wider band behind it. So the articulation
Okay.
is coming
It's
in
like
and
street
out.
view probably would have helped me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's okay. I trust you.
The interest of the articulation along the base of the building gives for offsets so that we can have more dining area.
That's what I was gonna say. Is there enough for dining for a cafe that you can
Yeah.
do some outdoor dining?
with 2 and 4 tops that are 1 to 2 deep.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean,
And then
we're
the
not trying to have-
signage would add more articulation or visual interest.
That's correct.
Okay.
And the idea for the horizontal band sign, we kind of, as architects, we say, okay, the initial sign band could be here above the entries, and that's kind of why we identified in concept. And then at the locations that protrude out, that the articulation that's proud of the building that's behind it, those are good places for blade signs or additional retail signs. So as you're walking down, you see the sign sticking out, versus the car and the auto that drives by that says, oh, there's the band sign, I better get a parking space here. And now I'm a pedestrian, I'm walking in those projected signs or blade signs, start to help you on wayfinding as I say, okay, well, I'm going 150 feet that way. I see my ice cream shop down there.
Yeah.
I'm going to head that way.
Yeah, because I mean, this looked like super urban to me, and while this is going to be more urban, we're not urban.
No, this is,
You know-
we feel that this is a traditional style building.
And some
It has-
nods to Greek on the top. Is that what those
Yeah,
little columns are?
and it has really a revival style to it instead of a modern style with
Yeah.
no banding and no detail, because we didn't believe that type of architecture would really fit well here.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all I have.
Any other question? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, this time I'm going to open up for a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that would want to speak to this issue? Close the public hearing. Entertain a motion on this item.
Mayor, I move to approve the cases presented and adopt an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance and zoning map of the city of Corinth, each being part of the Unified Development Code from PD 21, a planned development with base zoning district C2 commercial on approximately 4.6 acres, generally located at the southeast corner of North Corinth Street and Walton Drive, to a planned development with the base zoning district of MXR mixed-use residential for the development of a mixed-use development, case number ZAPD 22-0009, Corinth City Center mixed-use plan development.
Second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Item number 5, conduct a public hearing to consider testimony and act on an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance and zoning map of the city of Corinth, each being a part of the Unified Development Code, by amending the boundary of Plan Development Number 21, the Parks of Corinth, PD 21, as adopted by ordinance number 99-03-18-05, to remove approximately 4.6 acres generally located at the southeast corner of North Corinth Street and Walton Drive, case number ZAPD 23-004, PD 21, boundary amendment. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is actually a companion item to the item you just considered, and Michelle Mikes will cover this and answer questions.
Thank you. This is really a formality at this point. With the prior zoning approval, this is simply the matter of removing or changing the boundary now of PD 21 to remove the 4.6 acres, plus or minus 4.6 acres, so that PD 71 will now be in place. Oops. Let's see. The city has received no letters of support, no letters of opposition, and we recommend the presentation or the approval. Let me go back to the drawing. Here we go.
Any questions from council? I'd entertain a motion on this. What? No,
Public hearing.
I got to open public hearing. 7:19. Does anybody want to speak to this issue? Okay. Close the public hearing. I'd entertain a motion on this item.
Mayor, I'd move to approve case number ZAPD 22-004, PD 21 boundary amendment as presented, subject to the approval of case number ZAPD 22-0009, Corinth City Center.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Item number 6, conduct a public hearing to present and discuss upcoming changes for the water conservation plan and drought contingency plan. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is actually a follow-up on an item that we discussed a couple of workshops back. We indicated to the council that we had some changes that we felt needed to be made to both of those plans as you just described. This is the required public hearing for that. We got some input from the council at the workshop, again, about a month and a half ago, I think. And tonight, Tristan will go over those changes and answer any questions that you have.
Tonight, I'll just provide the updated information for both plans, and the next council meeting will ask to approve the ordinance, adopt the ordinance for these. The purpose of the water conservation and drought contingency plan is to meet future water supply needs, reduce water consumption levels, reduce our water loss and waste, and extend the adequacy of the current water supplies. The goals of the plans are to maintain accurate metering to account for water usage, raise public awareness through educational programs, implement and maintain enforcement efforts, and decrease waste in lawn and landscape irrigation. The updates to our water conservation plan will include an updated landscape water management plan where we require our residents to water a maximum of 2 days per week, no watering between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. We're required to designate a conservation coordinator, address water waste, to prohibit overwatering and broken sprinklers, and then also require rain-free sensors on new systems. This is the zoning map. Currently, we are watering our water schedule, waters on odd and even addresses. This will break our city up into 3 different zones with different watering days. We'll also expand to include current items for conservation that we're actually already doing at Corinth. We'll just include it in the plan. We offer free sprinkler evaluations. We do have our water rate structure that encourages water conservation. We offer rebates, and we do promote Water My Yard. The new enhanced conservation strategy that we added to our plan is to prohibit the use of potable water to fill or refill ponds. Those ponds would just be those with a surface area of 500 feet or more. It will also provide for a 30-day watering variance for any new sod and landscape installed, which we don't currently have in our plan. The following slides will be updates to the drought contingency plan. There are no updates to stage 1. Stage 2 will now prohibit the filling, draining, and refilling of pools, and also prohibit permitting for new pools. Establishment of new sod will be prohibited under stage 2, and It will also prohibit the operation of ornamental fountains. Stage 3, the only update that we have is allowing for foundations to be watered 1 day a week between 6 p.m. and 10 a.m. The current plan said 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., so we extended that an extra 4 hours. And the update to enforcement measures, the first violation will receive a door hanger. The second violation will be a verbal notification, and also a letter sent via mail. And then the third violation will be a disconnect of the water service with the reconnect fee.
Are there any questions from council?
Yeah, can you go back just to, and I don't know if I'm just being dense tonight or what, DCP enforcement. We have 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
So is that like if we're in drought, so we go to phase 2, or if we're in severe drought, we go to 3? I mean, those aren't going to be the measures all the time?
Right. So when we enter our drought contingency plan, we are in an active drought. And our stage will actually be determined on our water supply. So that could be the water supply in our lakes, or also if our residents and commercial properties are exceeding a certain percentage of our allowable pumping for the day, we can enter a stage. Yeah. So once we enter the drought contingency plan, we'll then start enforcing. So drought stage 1, we will have twice weekly watering, just like we do in the water conservation plan. Twice weekly watering. They'll still have to follow the watering schedule. Not much will change here. Once we get into stage 2, that's once our reservoirs drop even further. I believe it's 85% or something like that. It'll go to once weekly watering, and then the changes that were added in. There are several things that are prohibited in stage 2, but these are the only things that change with this plan.
And
And
so
then
once we
stage 3
get
will
out
be
of
no.
stage 2, then if someone wants to do a pool, they can, correct? It's only during that stage that they can't do it.
That's correct.
Okay.
And it does say if they were already in the permitting stage, we'll still allow for the pool to be built. We just will not allow any new permits to come in under stage 2.
And what about, I think before this was the 30 days for new sod?
Mm-hmm.
Is that really enough time for new sod to take here in Texas in the heat? I mean, is there any way we could change that to 60 days? I mean, that just, to me, someone's going to spend thousands of dollars for their yard, and then they can't keep it watered because Texas, I mean, I know 30 days isn't enough time to get that growing well.
We actually do include a chart in with the new plan that Texas A&M actually developed under research for the 4 weeks. So for the first week, they recommend watering every day, the second week every other day, and then the third week, and so on. 30 days is enough to get that established, but you also can keep in mind that even though we say 2 days a week watering, they could still water morning and evening on the same day if needed. And handheld hose, they can water at any time. So if they have some extra spots they need to water in, that's perfectly okay. And drip is also welcome at any time as well.
Our new meters are working well? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. That was a nightmare.
Any other questions from council? Thank you very much. Very informative.
Thank you.
Okay. This time I'll open it up for a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this? Please state your name and your address for the records, please.
Mike King, 2610 Zachary. Y'all gonna have a field day with the homeowners associations when you start telling people they can't take care of their yards. I had $17,000 worth of damage done to my home. It still ain't been fixed by the city fully. Gonna get the bill, Mr. Campbell. When you start restricting the way we take care of our homes, and then you're gonna build all these other developments and take away from the people that have been paying the bills for years, and bring in all this saturation and density and take away from us. Did I not hear you're going to build a river through this downtown development or whatever it is? What'd you call it? A waterway? Or maybe I'm speaking wrong. I see you squinting. Maybe I'm misspeaking.
I'm squinting because I don't have my glasses on. I can't
Okay.
see you.
All right. I understand. I've seen you before, sir. How can y'all even think about approving that? These restrictions. You're taking more and more away from the residents that have been paying the bills for years. I understand water is a tight commodity. I understand there's delays. I get all the emails from Trinity. I understand. There's some issues going on with the new lake. But just build, and take away from us? You're going to give me 30 days to lay my sod, then you're going to tell me I can't water but maybe 2 days a week when y'all tore it up? Doing something that's against the contract? Equipment was being used that specifically is listed in the contract not to be used? And not one person has called me from the city. And then you're going to tell me I can't water my grass?
Is there anybody else in the audience that wants to speak to this issue? Please state your name and your address for records, please.
Austin Ortega, 2801 Custer Drive. Just some mild concerns when we start to add in punishments for these things. It gets kind of interesting seeing cut off someone's water. If they're not home, you're on vacation for 2 weeks, crap, you left it on. You come home to your water being cut off? That's wild to me. Considering we had a conversation before about where that $125 goes, so it's kind of interested in, like, you're not giving, we already paid $125, they're turning it off, so you get your $125 back. And then you would pay that $125 again to get it, or you guys keeping the $125, that would be lost at that point, because there was already a water deposit paid. This seems like a slippery slope in ordinances of overcharging people for things that they're already paying for. I mean, it's not like, again, the water conservation, yes. Louisville had it too. Every couple of days, turn on water when you need to. Let's all help do a part. But this is becoming the punishment of now, you don't do it. We have a golf course in Corinth. If we're really concerned about water, shut off the golf course. I mean, they use more than, what? How many houses would that equate to? 100, 200, 300 a week? Like, if we're really concerned about it, we have other things we could do to actually limit water exposure and water usage. This just seems like an overstep into a place where we're now mandating how people use their water. It's a little strange in my opinion. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Okay. I'll close the public hearing. And we don't have a motion. All right. So, and because we didn't, the city manager did not get information back, there's no need for us to go into executive session. So at this time, we're adjourned.